What do you see going on in the industry right now? Are we doing a good job at keeping customers?
I actually think it's...
Welcome to this week's episode of the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. Joining me is Dr. Paul Bedford from the Retention Guru, helping keeping your customers longer. You had a LinkedIn post that went viral.
Yeah, to be really honest with you, this probably isn't the place to start. Everybody's a salesperson, even if they're not selling. You can't plant your crops today and expect to harvest them tomorrow. Scarcity, genuine scarcity is always worth having. And waiting lists create even more scarcity. So yeah, no, I'm a massive fan. Because the people who are most likely to buy the product that you currently offer are already doing what you currently offer, but with somebody else.
What are the three things the independent sector should do?
The three things, and they cost nothing.
You don't want to miss this episode. Let's jump into it.
This episode is brought to you by Wellbeing Fitness Education Center. Wellbeing Fitness help fitness businesses like you set up an education academy inside your business so you can qualify people on a level 2 or level 3 personal trainer certification. Teaching a personal training certification inside your business can add between 40 and up to £80,000 a year in additional revenue, and it also means you can educate and mold these students to be perfect fit employees specifically for your business, meaning you'll never have a staffing issue again. And all you need to do is teach the practical stuff. Wellbeing will provide and take care of all of the theory work. Plus, they will build out the marketing for you so you can get all the inquiries you need to fill up your first course. To find out more, click the link below this video inside the show notes or visit wellbeingfitnesseducationcenter.co.uk.
Paul, welcome to the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. We've known each other 15 years, maybe more.
Yeah.
Can you just tell everyone out there who's watching or listening to this what you do in the industry?
Okay, so I run a business called Retention Guru. The business focuses solely on how you keep your members and your customers for longer. I'm fortunate that I work internationally now, and I spend all my time either doing data analysis or creating strategies for businesses.
So we're going to talk everything globally about the fitness industry, and we're going to flash up a number of different images and videos of different gyms. So if anyone is listening to this, I highly recommend you switch over and watch it. So we have this saying at FMA, it's much easier to keep a customer than consistently get new ones.
Yeah.
So what do you see going on in the industry right now? Are we doing a good job at keeping customers?
I actually think it's stagnated. I really do. I think there's been a lot of changes within the industry, and as a result of the way in which people are delivering their services, I think in some cases we've gone backwards. There's certainly less enthusiasm to deliver some sort of onboarding now. It's very much, with the low-cost market, it's very much the join, you get access. And I think that the art of onboarding new members with an aim to keep them for longer has been lost in lots of places.
I think what I'd like to do is zoom out and let's talk low cost market. Let's talk high cost, like health club market.
Yeah.
But a lot of our listeners are the independent gym sector.
Cool.
So what can that sector of the industry do better in terms of keeping clients longer, or what are the common mistakes that they're making?
I think the first thing is to it depends on the type of person that walks through the door. If they're completely new to exercise, you have to think about them as someone who can't drive and wants to learn to drive. And that's not going to happen in a single session. And if you crammed everything, if you tried to teach someone to drive in a single session, think about how much you'd try and learn and how uncomfortable you'd feel at the end of that. And so I think the way in which you successfully onboard people in order to keep them for a long time is think like, okay, what am I going to teach them perhaps in the first week, in the second week? And if you're selling programs that are over the first few weeks, then it's like build up their competence over time. I describe it, I said recently, my daughter's an athlete, and I said she needs to start doing some S&C. And someone said, what are you going to get her doing and what's her And I went, the first 6 weeks, I'm just going to teach her the exercises. I said, I want her to become confident and competent at those exercises rather than worry about the intensity. She's already got intensity from her regular training. I'm going to add S&C intensity over time, not straight away. So it's that learning process. And I think we dive in at the moment too quickly into the fitness side rather than thinking about, actually, this person needs to learn the things that we're going to ask them to do, rather than just go, let's see if we can get you, excuse my language, blowing out your arse on the first session just to prove how hard I can make you work.
Which is very common across the industry, where a coach will see a new person and their idea of fitness is to make sure that person leaves like sweaty, hot, and exhausted, and that's their perception of, oh, that was a good session.
Yeah, and I use a description when I'm working with my clients. I call it the hump of discomfort. If you're new to exercise, almost everything is uncomfortable. Now, in life, when things are uncomfortable, we stop doing them. If things are painful, we expect that's a consequence of doing something wrong. Now, exercise can certainly cause pain and discomfort, but for those people who've adapted to that, we actually look forward to it. We describe it like, I can't walk today, I did legs yesterday, and we talk about being uncomfortable and possibly of being in pain as a good thing. Whereas if you've got someone who's never exercised coming in and they're feeling that, they think there must be something wrong either with me as an individual or the way I've been trained. And so we have to get people accustomed to the discomfort of beneficial exercise.
So if we just go all the way back prior to that person coming through the door, does it start in the marketing? Does it start like once they've made contact in the sales process? Does it start in the first time you meet them and shake their hand after the first session? How can the independent sector tighten up that process to make sure that client sticks longer?
I think they have to be able to describe the experience someone's going to have before they even get there. So that when they look at marketing online or, they go, okay, this person's thought through what I'm feeling. So I heard an expression, I can't remember who it comes from, but it's, if you can describe someone's problem better than they can, they automatically assume you have the answer. Now, if you can describe, if you're thinking about joining a gym, but you've always felt anxious about it, or you're worried about being in pain or discomfort, people reading that who are new to exercise are going to look at that and go, that's me. They understand, they get me. And then I think there'll be more, they'll buy into that more. Then if you've designed a process that says, we start people like this, most people fall out of exercise because they try and do too much too soon. So we've designed a process that does X, Y, Z to get you on board. You will get the benefits of exercise. What you won't get is it's not the optimum workout to start with. It's the optimum learning experience to get you on your journey.
Can you give some stats data on like the amount of people that have a gym membership versus don't, or the amount of people that exercise and don't?
Yeah. So in the UK at the moment, we've got about 15%, just under 15% of the population currently have a gym membership. Now, we're not able to identify whether they've got one or two. So we just say it's 15% of the population. There's about another 15% of the population have had a gym membership or are currently exercising but not in gym environments. So that's like 30%. There's about another 20% on top of that are interested in joining or being involved in exercise but are currently not exercising. The rest have no interest in exercise in the format that we offer it in. And therefore, there's an opportunity to almost double the size of the market here in the UK. So when people are saying to me, oh, there aren't enough people exercising, I'm like, actually there are. There's twice as many want to come in. So it's finding ways of attracting them to bring them in and then onboard them.
So we need to do a better job at reaching those people that are sedentary, sort of maybe they're interested, but maybe fear's holding them back from proceeding forwards.
The simplest ones to go after, and the ones who've said they have most interest, are the ones who are already active but not active in a gym. So they're already doing something. They might be running, they might be playing tennis, they might be doing other activities. They also see themselves as adding gym or gym type workouts to their lifestyle. Whereas if you went after the hardcore sedentary, good luck, because they're not even interested and you're trying to sell them a product they don't even want.
Let's go back to what you described a few minutes back about that first session. So it's very common in the fitness industry. A front end offer for a gym will be come in for your free trial. Yeah. And typically that's an exercise session. So is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea?
Look, I don't know from a conversion perspective whether a free trial is the right thing to do. It's not something that I encourage my clients to do. But I think if you've Because if you value your business, I think it's like, I don't get a free Rolls Royce for the weekend. If I want one, I buy one. But that first session needs to be really curated for me. It needs to be designed. It's not an ad hoc experience. That you should know what questions you're going to ask, you should know what activities you're going to get them to do, and you should have a range of things you can do depending upon their current competency and their capabilities.
A lot of the independent sector, they want that like athlete to come through the door that already knows the movements, they're working out 3-4 times a week, they're happy in that environment, and they just slot straight into the community and they press go and then they stick. But as you've already highlighted, like that's the minimal amount of people. The untapped market is those people that they know they've got a problem, and they're actively participating in something, a sport, or it might be just hitting 10k steps, but they've yet to sign up for a gym. So when that person does finally have the confidence to reach out and proceed forwards, what can we do, like from the first interaction, to make sure that client comes in? Because every gym would love a client to come through the door that sticks for 12, 18, 24, 36 months. But we know that's not the reality straight away. So it all comes down to that first interaction.
I think the first thing is managing expectations. So when you do get someone to walk in, it's like saying, okay, here's the things you need to think about. A question that I teach is always to ask people, what are you going to do less of in order to come and do more of this? Because they're going to have to substitute something in their life for the time that they're giving up. Then it's like, it's a bit of a trick question, but I'll be asking, how long were you thinking about being fit and healthy for? Because someone will go, well, forever. And you go, well, right, let's talk about the long-term effect of exercise and what you can expect to see in the first 6 weeks, the second 6 weeks, first 6 months and into your first year. Because then already you're talking to them about being a member or for a year as opposed to a month or a session. And then go, so this is how your body will adapt in the first sessions. This is what you'll feel. These are the exercises you'll be able to do to begin with. And this is what you'll be able to do in 6 months' time.
Do you think the consumer's been conditioned for quick fixes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think because in so many other areas of our lives, it's like I joke around about the fact when I was a child, if you ordered something, there'd be something on the packaging that say, please allow 28 days for delivery. Now, if I order it today and it's not here tomorrow, I'm like, where's my tracking code? Where is it? So there's a lot of things we're expecting to happen really quickly. But the only analogy that I can think of that works really well is almost like farming. You can't plant your crops today and expect to harvest them tomorrow. Fitness is one of those things you start today and harvest over time, not immediately.
So it's like giving the consumer a roadmap. Like A, this is where you are. B is the destination. These are the steps in between that's going to occur. This is what we need you to do. This is what we're going to do. And together we're going to have a great relationship.
And I think it's like, having had an exercise background myself and taught exercise, saying to people, look, your flexibility we can improve from today, because you can see that transition, with some P&F stretching. You could do some stretching today and someone goes, oh, I feel much better. So your cardiovascular, this is what's going to happen. Within the first 6-10 weeks, you're going to be doing this already. Strength, it's going to go up really quickly, then it's going to plateau off. If you start describing those things to people and then they have those experiences, they trust you. Because you said that would happen and it happened, as opposed to not saying it. And so we know enough about anatomy and physiology in terms of how quickly our body adapts. We should be describing that to people.
What I see common, especially in CrossFit, and I'm a big fan of CrossFit, is coming for your free session. And now I'm seeing it more and more with Hyrox affiliated gyms, coming for your free Hyrox like taster session. And typically what happens is someone will turn up who's never done Hyrox, CrossFit, or insert whatever the session is. And they will be one of 20 in a crowd. Their technique might be a little bit off. They've not had any signatures of like PAR-Qs or medicals. The coach doesn't really know if that person's got history of injuries or anything like that, and then they're thrown into like a massive long workout that's extremely hard where they're redlined the whole way. And then at the end of the class, everyone's exhausted, laying on the floor, and then the coach is then trying to speak to the members coming in for the next session, and then that person that came into the free trial just disappears into the background. There's no email follow-up, there's no phone call, and they just expect that person just to turn up for session number 2. So for me, a lot of gyms in the independent sector, they say, we've got the best programming, or they say things like, once a customer comes in, we know that we'll convert and keep them. But like when someone comes in and has that experience, like that's not good. You wouldn't go into another, say, physio, chiropractic, massage. I know those services are typically one-on-one and not group, but like you would be very professional. The floor wouldn't be sweaty from the previous class. There wouldn't be a random gym dog walking around, which is quite common in CrossFit, where the owner has a dog and brings the dog in, but not everyone likes dogs. So in terms of us as an industry in the independent sector, like what else can we do to avoid that scenario?
I'd say I would go back one step and almost go, if someone like that inquired about joining, say, to be really honest with you, this probably isn't the place to start. I'd recommend you do something else, because all you're going to get is negative feedback from that. The person comes in, they leave in pain, or they leave uncomfortable and diminished in terms of their personal self. What are they going to do? They're not going to keep that to themselves. Someone says, I'm thinking of going down to this club, they're doing high rocks. You don't want to do that.
If they're a beginner.
It's we get asked a lot in terms of data analysis when we're doing big data for some of the big organisations. The marketing people come to us and say, how can you identify who stays the longest? And I'm like, yep. And they go, can you tell us who they are? I went, yep. And they went, because we want to try and get more of them. I went, well, I know where they are. And they go, well, where are they? Well, they're with your competition. Because the people who are most likely to buy the product that you currently offer are already doing what you currently offer, but with somebody else. That would be a challenge in terms of setting up a marketing strategy to try and steal customers from other people. But that's essentially what CrossFit did. It said, if you're the top 2-3% of fitness people and you're training in a way that's not competitive and you want to be around other competitive fit people, come and join us. But the initial person walking in, I always use the example of my mum. My mum walking in doesn't want to be a CrossFit athlete. She wants to lose weight, tone up, get fit, all the general things that people want from exercise, not to be a competitive athlete against other athletes.
One of our best marketing campaigns that we roll out for FMA clients is our beginner challenge. It's 6 weeks for beginners only. And when we roll that out, the gyms get influx of inquiries because I think people identify with that word beginner. Now, if we were to really analyze each of those people that buy a membership or sign up for that 6 weeks initially, I wouldn't necessarily classify them as beginners, but they classify themselves as beginners.
Well, we break when we're building out strategies, we break members down into 3 groups. We call them new, yo-yo, and savvy. New, never done anything. Yo-yo, done something but not stuck to it. So they start and stop. And savvy are those people like ourselves who could walk into any gym in the world and do a workout. We could look at the equipment, we go, some dumbbells, there's a ski erg or a bike, or I'm on it, I can do this. The yo-yos get treated like savvies too often. They walk in, they go, have you ever been a member of a gym before? Yeah. Oh, well, you'll know what you're doing then. No. The fact that they've been a member of another gym might indicate they've struggled elsewhere and therefore need more support. So we use a system where we put the new and the yo-yo together unless they clearly identify it as someone who's savvy, who's changing gym. And then treat them that way. And those sort of beginners programs, introductory programs, we've called them foundation programs, we've given them all sorts of different names, can be really, really effective at getting people through those early stages without too many expectations.
So buddying people up.
I think grouping people together, I'm a little bit like, if you've ever had that experience of someone say, I've got this friend, you'll really like them. You're almost like, And occasionally you do meet someone and you think, actually, I do really like them. But I think grouping people together and saying, here's a group, come and work as this group, that you've all got a similar experience. I know of operators who are going, we're going to put two new people who don't know each other together as buddies. If I think of the term buddy, those are friends of mine. They're not people I've only just met. So I think grouping them is a good way of doing it. So you have a cohort of new exercises.
That go through a program together.
Go through it together.
Friendships are formed. And
yes.
Then, hey, I'm going to stay. Are you going to stay? Oh, yeah. I wasn't, but because you are, I don't want to miss out.
Oh, definitely.
I'm going to do that. So what else can the independent sector do? So they've roadmapped, they've told them the expectations of the relationship. That person comes in, they're in their first month, succeeding. Typically they're in a front end offer trial, and then they have to have that conversation like, hey, now you need to commit. What else can they do to get that conversion rate up from front end trial to long term number?
One of the things I would do is I would talk about the number of people who've already done that. Because it's actually the example is going, most of the people who join us do a trial session, 90% of them go on to actually having more sessions. So again, it's framing that long-term experience.
Showing them the pathway of success.
Yes.
We got a famous saying at FMA that we say is like, you don't just get married and then stop dating.
No.
And it's the same with marketing. Too many gyms, they just market to get front-end people through the door. They acquire the customer and then they forget to market to them again.
Yeah.
And part of that marketing and sales go hand in hand, right? Is that communication to that customer. Like, hey, this is what you achieved in 6 weeks. Look at this brochure or look at this testimonial of what this client who's only 6 months in front of you has achieved. This is the next stepping stone to get you that desired result.
And, a lot of the research work we've done has been around visit frequency and showing people actually, if you want to retain people, they only actually need to come once a week to retain them. Now, I know a lot of the trainers who are, the owners who are trainers who are listening and watching to this will go, that's not enough. Yeah, I know that's not enough, but it is enough to retain them in the business. If they were coming twice a week, they would not only be retained, but they would also get results. And getting that consistency of turning up same day, same time, so that fits into their lifestyle, that becomes protected, is a really strong way of going forward. And if you've got someone who's on a program and they've come in and it's like, I don't know, I'm going to make this up, it's Tuesday and Thursday lunchtime. If you can get them to commit to Tuesday and Thursday lunchtime going forward, that becomes protected. Then their work colleagues, if they're in a work environment, don't start going, do you want to do this at lunchtime? They're going, Tuesdays and Thursdays, you do this. So for me, it's all about building the routine with people and recognizing their achievements. And some of their achievements can be just visit frequency. It doesn't have to be physiological change.
So let's imagine there's 11 to 15 classes per day on a timetable for a small independent. And you're saying don't give the consumer full flexibility to pick and choose when they want. Try and get them to commit to a specific time, specific day. Yeah. And if you do that, you have a better chance of keeping them long term.
Oh, definitely. And we did a big piece of research on 80,000 personal trainers. 80,000 clients who had personal training. That's a slightly different group, isn't it? We found the people who had personal training on the same day and same time stayed much longer than any other group. People who had personal training on an ad hoc basis, so different days, different times, didn't even stay as long as the people who didn't have personal training. So it's always said within the industry, group exercise keeps people longer. We've got no evidence of that. There's no actual separation. If you take all the different types of group exercise classes, compare them to the gym, they pretty much have the same format. However, the people who do stick to group exercise, and if there is an effect of group exercise, one of the effects is day and time. Because once it's in someone's diary, they turn up. And if you think of athletes, people who are in sports, they have a day when they compete and usually 1 or 2 days a week when they train. If it's a group environment, it's rugby training on Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 o'clock, I better be there. And so there's a huge component of the day and time element that impacts retention. And it's not that I wouldn't say to people, you can come, you can only come at these times. I'd say pick 2 times when you are going to come and stick to those.
Yep, great. In terms of community building, what else can independent sector do away from the gym floor to build that community?
I think there's a number of things. One of the things is, and this is really straightforward, if you want to feel like you're part of a community, you have to identify the people who aren't part of that community. And one of the simplest ways of doing that is through branding. Having a T-shirt that you give to people. Now, maybe it's you go, if you complete your first 6 weeks and you come twice a week, we give you a T-shirt that you can only get if you've completed that. So there's a sense of achievement. It's achieved by actually just turning up. But actually you then get I'm part of something. I'm wearing the colours of my group. The other things with community is things like the further the community or the longer the business is there, being able to do things like off-timetable classes or off-timetable workouts if you're small group training to style, which aren't on it. You get invited into this because you've been here at least 6 months. You get the opportunity. You don't get that opportunity early on.
So maybe like a more advanced clinic on a lift or like a nutritional session or something like that.
It could be that. It's almost anything that is, you're part of the group. You only get this because you've been here. It's not, and you don't advertise it anywhere. It's just like
secret club.
Yeah, it's the inner circle. So you're bringing people into the inner circle. The other things you have to do, and again, you can look at High Rocks in some ways, but certainly CrossFit in terms of what are the rituals. What are the rituals that are almost unwritten about you turn up, what you're wearing, whether you're going to chalk your hands, you're high-fiving people and waiting for the last person to finish. They're all rituals that when you're in, you know about, but when you're out, you're like, what's going on here?
So build those into the business,
into the experience.
Get all the coaches to read from the same hymn sheet of what to do at the end of the session, start the session.
I have a client in China, and when they first suggested they were going to do this, I thought, this is weird. They walk around, it's a traditional gym, but when their staff walk around the floor, they high-five their members when they're transitioning or when they're resting, and they walk and they high-five, and I was like, that won't work. And then when I went in, they were doing it. They were all committed to do it. The members got used to doing it, but they didn't interrupt anyone's workouts. But it was like, good to see you. And it felt much more like a bonded session rather than, we've given you access.
Puts a smile on their face.
Yeah. Even if you know it's contrived, it still makes you laugh.
And breaks the ice, and you can have a conversation with someone. And
if you think about how many people sing along at a restaurant when someone brings out a cake, it's like happy birthday. It's like you go, but you join in.
Everyone looks around. Everyone stops eating. Everyone
joins in, and it's like, that's what we do. And so it's building those sort of things in. Whether you finish a session with always like a fun activity, or if it's more of a one-to-one session, a reflection on what they've done today. So for me, I talk and present about precognitions, cognitions, and postcognitions. So cognitions is just thoughts. What are the pre-thoughts you're trying to get someone to think about before they turn up today? What are the thoughts you want them to have while they're having their workout? And what are the postcognitions, the thoughts they have about their workout after they've left? And then you loop those. And you're always trying to create environments where they have positive, I get to train today. I really, this is the bit of the workout I like, and I really enjoyed that workout. But you can initiate a lot of that through the conversations you have with your members.
Let's go back to that T-shirt. So a small group training provider, let's say they're charging 100, they're buying that T-shirt for £10, and then they're just giving it away for free, eats into their profit margins.
Yeah.
And obviously to buy multiple T-shirts can maybe hit £1,000, let's say.
Yeah.
They might talk themselves out of it. It's just another expense. And I think it's because they don't truly understand lifetime value of a client. So can you just go into that a bit more?
So if you look at the industry standard is 50% of customers stay 12 months. So you'll hear it all the time, they only stay 6 months. We don't see that in the data. It's about 12 months. If it costs you £10 to get 2 extra months out of somebody, then it's not costing you £10. It's costing you £5 per month. but the additional extra months you will extra likely to get will far outweigh the actual cost of recruiting someone or getting them to come in the first place. Again, we run activities when we're doing workshops. It's like, if no one ever left, how long would it take for you to be at capacity? So you've got a small facility, let's say you can have 400 members. You've currently got 200, you're signing up 30 a month. How many months, if no one ever left, how many months before you're at capacity? We also do it the other way around. If no one joined, how long before you go out of business? But the lifetime value of a member isn't just the amount they spend in their membership. A lot of the work we've been doing this year has been focusing on secondary spend. And we see that people who have been within facilities or memberships within about 6 months start to add about 30% additional spend to their monthly fee. But it takes about 6 months to get there. Some activities, we refer to it as the double-double, they come in twice a week, they spend twice as much, partly because they come in twice a week, as someone who only comes in once a week. So that you get the 30% on each visit, not just a visit. So there's huge revenue generators for additional length of stay and secondary spend.
A lot of the independent gyms that we look after, when you go into their facilities, because they're typically smaller than a bigger chain corporate gym, they're not selling too much of anything for secondary spend. So what are you seeing that people are buying?
T-shirts. We started this with, giving a T-shirt away. Well, if you do park run, you can buy a T-shirt when you've done 100 park runs.
I see that, yeah.
Yeah, Peloton. You do 100 rides with Peloton, you can buy the Century T-shirt.
People do it.
And they do, because they want that. So you don't have to give the T-shirt away. I gave that as an example. You could sell the T-shirt. You're now entitled to be able to purchase this rather than actually. So it's not eating in. And in fact, it could add to profits. I would actually package it with more than just a T-shirt. I go, you're at this stage, you're now, if you want to get the 20 visit or the preliminary package, it's a T-shirt, now it's a Stanley mug or a Yeti jug. It's these things, and it costs this. That's what I would do.
Let's go to the low-cost market now.
Yeah.
So I joined the industry 2001, and from my knowledge, I don't think there was a low-cost provider in the UK. I don't know if there was in the world. So can you just go way back? When did the explosion of low-cost operators come on the scene? And then what's the impact it's had?
It really started in about 2006, and it didn't start as a direct movement to be low cost. It started off with, and the gentleman's name escapes me at the moment, but he had a personal training studio that he then started letting his personal training clients use for £10 a session on their own. And he built up to 1,000 people wanting to pay £10 a session or £10 a month to come and use it without a trainer. At the same time, in Germany, McFit started with the idea of a low-cost membership, which was basically a big space, access, but nothing else. And they were charging, 10, 20 euros a month. That model caught on really quickly. The first, Fitness First, when they were the big operator here in the UK, they were going to go down that route. They bought this small personal training business as a model, found it wasn't generating the amount of revenue they wanted because of the floor space. But at that time, both Pure Gym and the Gym Group started, and they started with this model of large space, access, no staff, use technology. And it wasn't really until it was when we had the global depression in 2006 to 2008 that it sort of resonated with people, because it was like, if you're a member of a health club and you're paying £40 a month and you're not really getting access and no service, why don't you just pay £20 a month and get access and no service? And so they brought in this idea of this low cost, and because everybody was financially constrained, it just resonated with people. It's like, yep, that makes sense. And so a lot of people started buying in. It has changed, I think, the focus of the industry, because where we used to look after people when they first joined, what I would call an onboarding session, an induction, whatever you want to call them, they disappeared into, here's where the fire alarms are, here's where the toilets are, crack on yourself. And it was really a high volume business as opposed to a service business. The challenge those businesses have had, if there is a challenge, is they price anchored under £20 as being low cost. And so for years they couldn't put their prices up because they told the market low cost is under 20. So the market went, okay, so if it's over 20, it's not low cost. So they couldn't put their prices up. But that was it. It was probably Kenny McAndrews was the guy that had the site. Can't remember what his Fit Space, I think it was called. Could be wrong. But yeah, 2006, 2008, the global depression, and then it just took off from there.
Can we go around the world and you just list out a number of low-cost providers? And what we'll do, we'll splash up some footage of those gyms.
Yeah.
Because I know people listening to this, they want to know what's going on in the industry. They want to know of gyms or brands that they've not heard of before. They want to get some insight into what's going on in other countries. So let's go on a whirlwind tour and just list off a few low-cost providers.
Well, obviously, the biggest one in the US is Planet Fitness, 18 million members. Backed by some of the biggest financial institutions in the world. They've been going for about 20 odd years, and they always had for a long, long time, until this year actually, a £10 membership, £10 a month, or $10 a month membership, which was really a hook. It was just to get people to walk through, and on average, people were paying about $26. But their clubs are designed to be high volume, low cost, and they are going after the new to exercise, and I would say the regular exerciser that's not too worried about high performance. So they don't have excessive weight dumbbells. They almost have no free weight area, lots of resistance machines. They also discourage lots of making noise when you train, which for regular exercises is always like, oh, Planet Fitness don't have these. And I'm like, I watched a video of one guy, 20 minutes, he criticised Planet Fitness. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not marketing to you. They're going after the person who's new. So Planet Fitness, and for every $1 they invest, they get a return of $26. So they're doing really, really well.
In their marketing or just?
Generally. So if they invest $1 per square foot, they get $26 back.
And the clients get free pizza, is that right?
Free pizzas on a Friday. They do some controversial marketing. One of the... and they're not worried about the rest of the market because they're going, well, you go after that fitness person and we'll go with those new, what I call as new and yo-yos. We'll have them. They did a thing last summer, I don't know if they've done it this year, where they made it free for any person between, I think it was 14 and 18. They could have a 6-week summer membership or a 3-month summer membership. 1 in 9 of the US population in that age range used their clubs in that time. It's like, that's remarkable.
So planting the seeds for the future.
Planting the seeds, yeah, definitely. So you've got them, you've got other operators across the US that use a similar model, and they look very, a lot of these models look the same everywhere you go. If you then, obviously UK, we've got a number of those. If you look across Scandinavia, you've got Nordic Wellness, similar model, probably close to 350 locations, 24/7 Sweden, or 24/7, they're out of Sweden. They got 250 locations in 5 countries. Similar model. You could, with a lot of these, apart from perhaps like Planet Fitness will have all their equipment in purple and yellow, which is horrific to look at. And I don't know what the resale of that equipment would be, but it probably hasn't got a resale value. But in a lot of these facilities, you could rebrand them within 24 hours. They look the same. They're using the same equipment. I sometimes show an image of one in Germany that's, I call it 50 Shades of Grey. And I said, this is a colour picture, but it was actually... it just looks grey because it's grey floors, grey walls, grey equipment. Then across Europe, you've got Basic Fit, which is the big one. It's got 1,200 locations across multiple countries. It goes on and on. You know, in Australia, you've got Jets. You've got Snap probably is, but isn't as well because it's small footprint. You know, there's lots and lots of these. Cult Fit in India, 500 locations.
Are these operators talking to each other, or do they try and keep separate and their secrets themselves?
I don't think there is actually a secret to what they're doing. You know, I think that most of them are very well funded and just go, this is what we're doing, you know, and they just try and run their business better than anybody else. And they're really not worried. You know, when I see sometimes people posting about here in the UK, oh, Pure Gym are doing this, you know, they're an independent and they go, Pure Gym are doing this, and Pure Gym aren't even worried about what independents are doing. They're just going to do their own thing.
So all of them are backed by major investment.
Yeah.
And they're probably in the game of how can they acquire more customers at a cheaper rate.
Yeah.
To be profitable, right?
Oh, definitely. And how many locations can they have? Because, you know, one of the challenges with my business is that, you know, do people want to retain their customers for longer and make more profit? With some of the bigger operators that I don't work with, their model is actually, if we build a club and it makes 100,000 a year profit, then we'll build 2 clubs. And then we'll build 3 because we're making a profit. So a lot of these businesses are highly profitable, and it's like, we won't worry about trying to keep people. We'll just open more clubs. That will get to a stage where they then go, right, we'll now sell it on to another investment group and they'll take their money. And the next investment group will come in and go, right, how can we cut costs or create a better margin?
What have you seen in the local areas where these low-cost operators come in terms of the demographic?
Yeah.
And then in terms of like the mid-level, either independent or maybe it's the corporate chain or the high-level health club? Yeah.
What we see, so they do attract people who are already exercisers, because if you're having an experience where you're paying, let's say it's £40 a month, and really all you're getting access, and someone comes along and says, for £20 a month, you can get access. It's like, actually, that's a no-brainer. Whereas if you've actually created the community, you've created all the other things that we've already been talking about, then people are less likely to switch across. And there's no lack of people prepared to pay more money. So what you'll see when a low-cost operator moves into a location, you can lose between 20 and 50% of your customers for somewhere between 6 to 18 months. Now, some businesses just could not cope with losing 50% of their customers for 18 months. But what we do see is that over time, those existing businesses either recover people that they'd lost because people went off to try it, but they also start to attract people the other way because a low-cost operator comes in, does a lot of marketing, raises market awareness. People very rarely go, oh, I've heard of them, they're the only thing I'm going to look at. And they're going to look around. They're going to want to make, before they make their judgment, they're going to go, well, what else is available?
That's so true. So Pure Gym has just opened in this town here, Hayward, like 3 weeks ago. And they did a massive pre-launch pricing strategy. A number of the team signed up for it. And then suddenly I'm driving around. I see the billboard at the train station. Then I see a phone box. That no one uses phone box anymore, but it's been posted up with their branding. I go past a railing on the dual carriageway that's got their branding. They've obviously got permission to do that. Then a flyer came through my letterbox. Then I start seeing meta ads on Instagram and Facebook. I'm trying to think what else I saw. A bus was in front of me as I was driving Pure Gym. So that example, so Pure Gym heavily investing in their marketing. I would love to know what their budget is when they open a club. But what you're saying is basically that has a knock-on effect to the community because they're aware, oh, this gym's opening, but I'll go and research. Maybe a Pure Gym's not for me because I'm not experienced, but I'll go and hire a PT or I'll go to a semi-private coach gym.
And I think it's not my specialism, but all marketing advertising needs to be there to keep people's awareness. So bizarrely, I went out for my Christmas dinner from last week. And the plan was, and within our business, really small, it was me and my sister going to go out. We've got 2 analysts as well work with us. But we were going to go out for a Christmas lunch. Then something came up and we couldn't go. And it's taken us till now to rebook And he's like, shall we go where we said we were going to go? And I think what happens when someone like a Pure Gym comes in, it rekindles people's like, do you know what? I was going to join a gym, but they might look at Pure Gym and go, actually, I don't fit that demographic. It's not their language, but they go, I don't know if I'm going to be comfortable in there. What else is there? Because we never want to make a mistake about our purchases and get buyer's remorse. So we always want to make some comparisons. So they might go next door and go, well, actually, that's a lot more than I was expecting, but it looks really lovely. Pure Gym's what I'd like to pay, but it isn't where I want to go. What else is there?
Even the barrier system of like getting the app or putting in your PIN code can be so off-putting for people to walk through that capsule or the sliding doors.
We did a piece of research for one of the major operators here because they were a client. And when I was asked to get involved, we said, right, where are we going to start? And the COO at the time said to me, goes, according to our data, 10% of the people who join never visit. I was like, okay. So we ran some analysis and we came back to him and we said, look, the people who join and never visit, on average, they pay for 1 to 2 months. People who visit once pay for 3 to 5 months before cancelling. And he went, okay, project number 1, convert the people who never visit to visiting once. So we went out, we did a bit more work on the data. We went out and interviewed people who joined but had never visited. And what we found was, yes, there was a proportion. It was an impulse buy, Sunday night, sitting with their iPad in their lap. Yeah, I should join a gym. They joined, never went. But lots of them turned up, were confronted by the entrance, couldn't work out how to get in. There were no staff there to help them anyway, turned around and left. So all we did with them was just go, right, we need to create a strategy. And they said, well, it says in their email that we send them when they join, how they access and their PIN code and everything. And I went, well, they're obviously not reading it. And so we created a little video and said, you should send this video to people when they join and tell them they can't get in till they've watched the video, and show them what to do. And we made a really small sample example of that with an iPhone. And they then turned it into a professional video. And it dropped it to about 2% of people joining and not visiting.
So just that small interaction.
Small interaction. Tell people how to use your club, how to get in. So if you're fob access 24-hour and you haven't told people actually how to do that or shown them how to do it,
I think
you're asking them to work it out for themselves.
I think the independents listening to this is, like, you know where your gym is. You go there every single day, and you think everyone in your town or city knows where it is, but they don't.
No.
And having a little video of you driving to the gym, sped up with some music, works wonders.
Yeah.
And the parking situation, what I see when I go to gyms, independent gyms, is the owner's car and then their 3-4 staff's car, and that's it. Parking's gone. Yeah. There's no parking for customers because the staff were there first. They've taken it. And it's these little things that will stop people. I can't park, I won't come in. Yeah. Or I don't even know where to go.
So I work in the UK with some local authority operators. And there's one that I work with in Cambridgeshire where we had to start telling the customers, and this was obviously a while ago, but it's like, in this car park, the machine only takes 20 pence pieces and it's 20 pence an hour. But in this car park, at this centre, it only takes pound coins. It's only for 30 minutes. And it's like, just telling them what to expect when they first arrive. We're really popular on a Monday night at 6 o'clock. Allow yourself at least 15 minutes to find a parking space before entering the building, so you're not disappointed and miss the beginning of a class. It's going through all of those steps. It's going through that, what they Google call it, 0 moment of truth. What's the actual experience people have when they turn up compared to what you've shown them online? And then detailing that so people go, you will need to park here. So like even me coming here today, lots of information backwards and forwards, change of, I was coming by train, I ended up driving. Okay, I'm going to drive. What do I need to know? Park in this parking space. It's number 21. Can you do that? I'm like, I feel comfortable then, as opposed to turning up and going, oh, what if I park there? Am I going to get clamped? I've seen the parking signs. Going through that thought process is making people feel comfortable and relaxed, because they're more concerned about getting their car clamped than whether you know which muscle groups train which muscles.
Let's switch now to super high end.
Yeah.
Let's go around the world. Give us some insights into some of the brands, the clubs, and then what they're actually offering.
Okay, so if you look at some of the sort of the standard super high ends, like that I think of, you'd certainly be looking at somewhere like Midtown Athletic. Certainly worth looking up images of them, of their flagship site in Chicago. They've got 9 locations. Beautiful clubs, well run, well staffed. They even have a story for every area of their building. So if you look at images of the reception area, they'll say, well, actually, the stone that makes up the reception desk we imported from India, and it was shit. And they'll tell you this whole story about how they shipped in the stone from India. Has nothing to do with fitness. Then you look in their pool, that's where their swimming pool is, and you look at the concrete walls. They took the shuttering that was used to pour the concrete for the concrete walls and turned it into the floor of the gym, sanded down. So beautiful locations, high-end but highly staffed. So I'd say in the US, certainly the ones to look at would be Lifetime, which are more country clubs. If you're in the UK, think David Lloyd but on steroids. Equinox as being the urban, more virgin city centre type ones. I think a lot of the independents would be really fascinated by Dave Barton's gyms. He's now based solely in New York, but his Dave Barton's U gym is certainly different in design. It's certainly not 50 Shades of Grey. So that would be the ones I'd probably look at across the US. Then if you come into Europe, you're looking at Aspria, those people who go back far enough with the original team that had the Esporta group here in the UK that then sold out to Virgin. You're probably looking at some of the Holmes Place sites, Meridian health clubs across Germany. Where else? I'm just trying to think. You've got Heimat, and Aman, which are both in the US. Aman's $100,000 a year membership in Manhattan. And it's not just a health club; it's more of a
wellness, or
it's really into its wellness, but it's also like a Soho House sort of business setup as well. Heimat is very much wellness. That's on the West Coast in LA. Again, super high end. London, if you want super high end, you're probably looking at KX, which is a small footprint. Client of mine, or previously a client of mine. And when I was working with them, it was $5,000 to join, $5,000 a year membership. And if you look at it, you go, well, it's just a gym. It's like, it's a nice gym, mahogany wood and marble floors. And then probably, you go out into the Middle East and there's an abundance of super beautiful gyms that I'd probably argue don't make money, but they're going to stay open because the owners have got money. Gym Nation's are low cost, but it's beautiful looking clubs. I'm trying to think of my favourite in Dubai would be Studio Republic, which is a studio based health and fitness facility, and it's probably got about 6 or 7 studios, but they're decent sized. You could easily get 50 people in each studio, but they also have. You can do music lessons there, and you can do a WeWork environment. I think that is my favourite club in Dubai. But I think it's the sort of I like an eclectic style. I don't like corporate. Then you go across China. China's got some brilliant clubs, absolutely stunning clubs. Even back in 2015, they were using virtual reality workouts and headsets, and they didn't work all the time. But so White Wolf, who's a client of mine in sort of the Beijing area of China, Mr. Chen's got, I think, 30 clubs now. They're beautiful, beautiful clubs. But I think if you just, I think if you Googled any of those, even if you put in like Midtown, you'll see some really spectacular clubs, and they're very heavily staffed.
And we will definitely flash up all of those clubs that you mentioned on the video of this podcast, and hopefully we can link to all of them in the descriptions, because the biggest thing that I would say to the independents listening to this is go on these businesses' websites, see what you like on their websites, and, go visit these gyms when you're on vacation, holiday, or specifically go just visit them and see what you can take from them in inspiration and ideas, and then put them into your independent gym, and you're just going to raise the standard of what you do.
Oh, definitely. And I think one of the things you have to be mindful of now is that if someone sees something online or in a magazine that, so there's a pop-up. So I know, can't remember if it was Gucci or Chanel, I've got images of it, did a pop-up gym. They were never going to open a gym. They were doing it as a marketing. It was beautiful, but it had a lot of boxing equipment in it. And if you saw that, you thought, oh, that's really nice. And then people will then look for images of what you've got. They're going to go, oh, that's not all that. So people are actually, their expectations of what you're offering are now compared to anything they can see online. So they're looking at the best cycling studios. They're looking at the boutique studios and going, well, the spin place down the road from me hasn't got that. Why haven't they got? And they end up being disappointed. So we have to up our game.
So the independents need to improve the aesthetics of their facility.
Yeah, and the aesthetics has an impact on whether people join or not. It doesn't seem to have an impact whether they stay. Whether it works, it's clean, and whether it's, there's a sense of community is why they'll stay. But that initial, wow, this is be a nice place. I'd love to see myself. I'd love to be part of this. That'll have an impact to start with.
Let's talk pricing. You mentioned a few prices then. Can you just drop a little bit more information on these joining fees, the monthly fees, the contract, from what you know?
Well, a lot of the high-end ones will have a joining fee. Westwood, which is out in Ireland, in Dublin, they've got 4 or 5 sites, Alan Leach's clubs. I think they've got a €600 joining fee, and their clubs have got 5,000-6,000 members. So just on joining fee, they're doing substantially well. And then they'll be charging €150 to €200 a month. Places like Third Space, I think now are, I think there's still a membership that's in the £100 range, but most of those are up in the £200 range. Third Space, beautiful clubs. You go to their flagship site, which is Canary Wharf, pre-pandemic, 7,500 members. And they'd have 4,500 member visits a day. So these are beasts. These are absolute beasts. And you get that similar sort of price point across. Kicks is an exception, and there'll be the high mats and the Amans, which are, way out there. But you've got premium clubs that are, under £200 a month. Which when you look, if I was completely naive and I'm looking and I'm going, I can join a David Lloyd for 130, look at what they've got, indoor, outdoor pool, restaurant, all those things. And then I look at a single location, people will go, well, actually, why am I paying 200 for that when I could pay 120? People don't always make those logical decisions. They were paying, well, how much did you used to pay for CrossFit?
100 a month.
100 a month for a space that was probably a black floor, black walls, chalk and dirty. And, I did a blog one time saying you could join the Reebok club in Canary Wharf for the same amount of money, and they had 50 treadmills, 150 classes, a swimming pool, all those things. But people weren't joining for the price, they were joining for the outcome.
And going back to that scenario with CrossFit, and what a lot of people watching or listening this will know is, yes, they may all have a David Lloyd in their local area or a higher end health club, but what they have, what the big operators, corporate gyms don't have, is that robust community.
Yeah.
And that connection with the client. So in the bigger clubs, you're just a number.
Yeah.
Where if it's a smaller group PT studio or class-based studio, there's a high chance that they're under 500 members. The owner knows every single person.
Yeah, and look, and in some of the bigger operators now, they don't even have fitness staff on the floor. So if someone says, well, I could join that club and they're £100 a month, and you go, yeah, but you're on your own. It's a hire car, not a chauffeur service. It's, you're driving yourself around rather than having someone drive you. And we're here, we're more of a chauffeur service, we're more bespoke. We will get to know what you like and what you don't like and tailor things accordingly.
Do you think the independents can have a joining fee?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 30% of the UK market has a joining fee. 50% of the UK market. Public sector sites have joining fees. All the low-cost operators have a joining fee. They all charge £20, £30 to join. They might not charge it to rejoin, but they all charge it. What you have to, you have to be able to position it and say, this is what the joining fee does. So in the US, there's a process where often, if you have your monthly fee, once a year they charge you the equivalent of your monthly fee twice in a month, and they call it a maintenance fee. And they say they use that money to maintain the equipment, upgrade the equipment, and evolve the facility. No one bats an eyelid about it.
Because everyone wants that.
Because everybody wants that. Most of the operators, the big operators, will also upgrade their equipment in stages now rather than the whole thing. So that this year they'll trade out their treadmills and put their price up. And next year they redo their studios and put their price up. So they'll, rather than change everything out, they're changing things out in sections. So each time they change them out, they can put their prices up.
I think that's one of the biggest takeaways so far from this podcast, and there's been many, but the independent sector, adding that joining fee in because everyone else is, and that maintenance fee as well is like a no-brainer because every gym needs to be upgraded.
And look, if we look at our data, people who pay a joining fee stay longer than people who don't pay a joining fee. So if you have a joining fee, you could discount it and people would stay as long as people who paid the full joining fee. But if you have no joining fee, you lose the joining fee and they don't stay as long. So you're losing your money twice.
What's your views on creating some scarcity around the membership?
Oh, definitely.
Like Kicks, like Soho House.
Yeah.
Where you have to apply to become a member, and then if you leave, there's a possibility that you'll never be able to go back again.
I think scarcity. If you're a smaller facility and there is a capacity limit, like you go, all we could cope with is 400 members. We could not have 500. I'd make it really clear. So we're currently operating at 372. Our maximum capacity is 400. Once we've got 400, we're not taking any more on. We're starting a waiting list. In fact, I've had clients where we've started waiting lists before they're at capacity. There's not a big gap, but there is. And they're saying we're going to start a waiting list. And suddenly 3 times as many people want to sign up next month because there's a lack of opportunity. I better do it now.
What's going on there, do you think, from a psychology standpoint in the consumer's head?
I think most of that is I will join. And it's like me going to lunch for my Christmas lunch. It was like there was a time when I went, we're going to go. And we couldn't do it today. And then it gets put off for 6 months, which could be in a fitness environment, could be forever. And it's like, now's the time I've got to do it. Because if I got a message through from my sister going, that restaurant we want to go to, they might be closing down soon, or they're moving to a model of I'll be like, well, let's get in there now. Scarcity, genuine scarcity is always worth having. And waiting lists create even more scarcity. So, I'm a massive fan.
What's the best gym health club that you've ever been in?
Personal preference, I like the Dave Barton clubs. They're weird. I like weird. I'm not very mainstream. I might look very mainstream. I'm not. I come from, like, when I was a kid, I was a punk and a skinhead and a goth. And so I like things that are like a little bit quirky. His clubs are quirky. He's also from he was probably America's first celebrity personal trainer. And so he really understands training. So when you go into his clubs, the lighting is designed that if you're sitting on one of the heavy resistance machines, the lighting's designed to highlight the muscle you're training. So when you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're doing a chest press, it's highlighting your pecs and your deltoids. Whereas if you're doing a lat pull down, more difficult to see, but he'll highlight your back. So when you see it in the mirror, it's like, I love that. It's very weird, but I love it.
Roughly what they're charging?
They're charging about $130 a month.
For open gym?
For open gym. That's in Manhattan, so I don't think that, and that's a lot less than in the same street as his current club is 4 boutiques. So there's a Rumble, there's an F45, there's a yoga studio called Humming Puppies, and there's another, I can't remember what the other one is. So there's lots of competition in Manhattan. And he's busy, but he's probably, his market is a more traditional fitness market as opposed to a boutique market.
You just mentioned one of them. Let's go into franchise fitness. Obviously, there's been an explosion of franchises in the last 5 to 8 years. Who are the biggest players? Who are maintaining at the top? Who's opening up the most franchises? And what can we learn from them?
I think, well, Anytime are always going to be the biggest franchise. I think you got Exponential, who are a group that own multiple franchises in America. So they have I think they own Rumble, they own a spinning one, they own a whole range of different studios. Anytime were the pioneers of this. They're currently at about 4,700 locations in 17 countries. And they've just merged with Orange Theory. So they didn't even do buyout between the two companies. And I've worked with both of them, but they actually just merged businesses.
So they're completely different business models.
Yeah. One is boutique, one is traditional fitness, but Anytime is in the name. It was the first 24-hour access control facility. So they've always been big. Then you've got people in the US like Retro Fitness, Crunch, EOS. There's loads of them. And the reason I think franchising has grown so much is the franchises can grow on other people's money. It's not, they have to go and get their own investment. The challenge when you have a business like, how as I see it, something like F45, they had 2 masters. They were getting investment money from investment houses, and they were selling franchises. And then you have to try and keep both happy. And I don't think you can keep both happy. What are they doing, or what do they do that I think process? They're process businesses. They have a book. They'll go, it needs to be this size, this location, for this many people. It's going to be these colours. You buy a business.
There's a rule book.
Yeah.
With A to B of how to be a successful gym.
Yeah, and there's still fluctuation within that, because I work with lift brands, and they have Snap Fitness that people might be familiar with, but they also have 9 Rounds, which was their kickboxing boutique. And there is differentiation between the best performing clubs and the worst performing clubs. And then there's a standard. And some of that is, not just for them, but the location is wrong for the product. And there's not a lot you can do about that. If it's in the wrong place, it's in the wrong place.
So we see this a lot in the independent sector, where a person will grow up in a said town, and then they just open up their business in that town because maybe they built up a little clientele of PT clients, and then they decided to become an independent gym owner.
Yeah.
And they open in a town that's not the most affluent.
Yeah.
And then it's a struggle bus the whole time.
Yeah.
Because they're marketing, they're getting leads, but these leads maybe not got the money to invest.
Yeah.
And so what can strategically, they need to obviously not open in a poorer demographic town.
Yeah.
But what else can they do to?
I think, well, there's certainly organisations out there. There's leisure database company that would actually do an analysis of it. You gave them a postcode, they'll tell you roughly what the potential catchment is within a drive time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And so they'll say to you, based on that location and the other providers around you, you could expect to get X number of customers. And then you can look and go, well, actually, it's not even a viable business. Not at that price.
Is that just UK-based service? Or is
that is UK-based service.
I'm sure there's equivalents elsewhere.
Yeah, in the US, you'd be using something called Placer AI. You'd need to find someone who's got access to that. You can go to them. But I know some of the equipment suppliers in the US have it. And so they help, if you go to them and say, we want to buy your equipment, they'll go, let's run an analysis for you on that area.
First of all, if it's even an opportunity.
Well, probably after they've sold you the equipment, but as part of the package,
but basically, the independent sector are not doing that research.
No.
They're just opening it because a whim, they think.
Well, or they get a nice location. They go, "This is a really nice venue. Well, I could turn this into a really great gym." And there's a guy that I know who's based up in the northeast of England, and he's quite well known on the fitness side of the fitness industry. Worked for several major operators, and he wanted to open his own facility. And he goes, "Oh, everybody I talk to says I should do it," and I made him do a business plan and get the analysis done. And I said, "What's your outcome?" He goes, "I'd have lost £200,000. He said, because I said, there's a difference between people saying, "Oh, you should do it and I'll come and pay for it," than, "Well, give me some money and I'll do it." They're all enthusiastic when it's not their money, but as soon as it's their money, they don't want to do it. And so he said, he goes, "It would be my dream gym." He said, "But I couldn't do it in this particular town. I'd have to do it in one of the major cities." And I think the more unique you are, the bigger the population you need.
Like David.
Yeah.
So could that gym work in a small town like Haywards Heath?
I think you look in a smaller town, as long as you've got a product that's, I think if it's really, would a CrossFit work in Haywards Heath? Yeah. Would it struggle? I think so. Just because of the density of population. And then you think about the pyramid in terms of what percentage of the population want to be trained that hard, that frequency, like competition, and are prepared to pay that amount of money. Every time I ask a question, that group shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. Are there a bigger proportion that would like to train in a group, train quite hard, but not at maximal levels, on a regular basis, feel part of something of a community? Yeah. So small group training, I think is probably one of the most undervalued.
Well, I can tell you exactly what's happened in this town over the years. Is if we go back, everyone was a boot camp, everyone was a PT. There was a number of low cost, mid cost gyms, a couple of PT studios, and what's happened is two semi-private coaching facilities have risen to the top.
Yeah,
Pure gyms opened, and all the people in the middle have just disappeared.
Yeah,
or if they're still running their businesses, they're not doing anything significant in terms of growth, in terms of revenue, and certainly not profit for them in terms of the business. Or the owner's wage hasn't gone up because there's not enough footfall coming through the door because their service isn't at the same level as the smaller group PT studios, and then they can't compete with the pure gyms on price.
No, and I think the thing that I find with most businesses, they think it's easier to drive volume than it is to increase price, and I would actually argue the opposite. It's easier to increase price than it is to drive volume.
So there's opportunity for every gym owner to up that price.
Yeah,
you might lose a few members.
Yeah,
but it's easier to run a business with less people, charging them more money.
Well, I might have the numbers wrong on this, but David Lloyd here in the UK, either last year or this year, decided to increase their prices by about £30 a person per month. So on average, people were paying about £100 a month. It went up to £130 a month in one jump. So what's that? A 25% increase. They estimated that they would lose 20% of their customers. And they went, great, because 80% will pay 130. And now we've established 130 as our price point. As we sell in, people are going to be paying the higher fee. And they're back to where they were in terms of numbers, but everybody's paying a higher fee now.
And the independent sector, because there's that emotional attachment to the clients, because of the relationship that they built, they freeze and they're stuck on their pricing from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But they really need to look at it from a logical standpoint, a data standpoint.
I do a lot of work with software companies, and I have my own software company. And you look at them and they write into their contracts 5% increase annually. And it's in the contract when you sign up. And if you say to someone, look, your joining fee today is this, your monthly fee is this, each year on this date it will increase by 5%.
Which is not much.
Which is not percent, no. it means you don't even have to have that conversation with people about putting up the price. You put up the price. What I was suggesting earlier is that, some of the big operators are going, we've just put in a new line of treadmills. We've upped the price. We've just changed out the bar. We've upped the price. So they align it with
a justification
of.
But I think I prefer what you just said, which is
just put it in there.
Put it in the contract that every year it just goes up 5% regardless.
Yeah. And because people understand that, and at the moment, with all the challenges we've had financially, people go, well, actually, I get it that it's got to go up 5%, rather than me sitting down going, well, I'm going to have to charge you more. It's like, you're going to have some people go, well, no, I'm not going to pay it, and just call your bluff. And you go, oh, all right then. And then you're done.
This has been a very insightful podcast, lots of golden nuggets. Just to wrap this up, what are the 3 things the independent sector should implement into their business immediately to get better results with retention? Okay, so there's the 3 things, and they cost nothing to do. The first one will be walk through your existing customer journey in terms of, when someone turns up at your location, where do they park? How much is it going to cost them? When they come to the front door, does that open automatically, or have they got to ring a bell? Think about all of those things right the way through, not just the initial visit, but what you need to tell them about subsequent visits. Because it might be if the first time they turn up, you're there and they meet you, you might open the door for them. But if the next time they turn up, there's no one to meet them, it's like, what's the procedure? So walk through the journey as if you've never been in the business, or even take someone who's a friend or a family member who's never been and watch them go through the process. The second one I would think about is being able to describe your business differently from your competitors. There's no point in just saying to people, we care more, because that's what everybody says. So what you want to be able to do is going, look, if you've got lots of options. Some of those options might be less expensive, but what they're offering you is access to a facility where you're going to have to work out for yourself the structure of your workout, the timings of your workout, learn the exercises on your own. But you'll be able to. The cost for doing that will be low, but the cost in terms of your experience will be really low as well. Whereas what we do is we show you the exercises. You don't have to think. We teach you how to do them. We get you competent. We get you confident, and we build your skill over time. So you're really able to describe why you're different in what you do. And then the third one I would really concentrate on is talking about the length of time on average your members stay. It's really normal here for our people to do, after their first 6-week program, to sign up for multiple 6-week programs. And 50-60% of our members have been here more than 2 years. So they had their initial goals, and we've evaluated and moved on from that. So start talking long term. One of the mistakes I see is that people talk about quitting before someone's joined. So they walk in and go, well, it's only a 6 month. It's after that a 6-week program. So after that, if you don't want to stay, you can quit. They haven't even signed up to the first 6 weeks. Asking those questions. How long were you thinking of being fit and healthy for? Forever. Well, let's talk about what happens in your first 6 months then. So talking months of training rather than days and weeks, so that people start to see the future. And then also, use some of those simple techniques. Like, in 6 months, where do you see yourself? What would you be able to do if you were training here? Get them to visualize themselves in that business, training and being successful. That's where I'd start. Last story to wrap this up. You had a LinkedIn post that went viral.
Yeah.
Can you just tell everyone, and we'll flash it up on the screen for people watching it?
So I was working in Durham, northeast of England. I was staying at a hotel, which was one of the Bannatyne hotels, and I was working for Durham County Council. So the following day, I went down for breakfast in the morning. The breakfast is separate from the hotel; it's in the club, in the Bannatyne Health Club. I went in, I had breakfast. I came out from having breakfast, and I'm thinking, well, I'm in the club. I want to have a look around. So I started to have a general look with my head. And this woman said to me, she goes, can I help you? And I said, well, look, I'm in the fitness industry. I'd really like to have a look around the club. And she went, oh, I'll show you around the club. And I went, oh, great. So we went down where the studios were, and she said, no, this is our our spinning studio. We've got the Technogym bikes. We use the Les Mills programs. This is our yoga studio. He took me outside, said during the summer, this grassed area, we sometimes do yoga out here. Took me up to the gym, showed me the gym, did this brilliant tour, knew everything about all the products and the services. And we got downstairs and I thanked her. And I said, I started asking about pricing. And she said, well, I couldn't answer the questions about pricing. I'm only a domestic. And I went, what do you mean you're only a domestic? She goes, I'm the cleaner. And I was like, you cannot be the cleaner. And she went, that's what I do. I'm the cleaner. She goes, if you want to know prices, you need to speak to one of the sales team or the manager. And I was like, wow. And I was so blown away. It was the best customer experience I'd had in the gym in years. And I went outside and I stood in the car park and I just held my phone up and I went, this is what's just happened. Now, recently, and I posted it saying, what a great experience. And yeah, you're right. It blew up. Loads of people commented. Obviously, the Ballantines people loved it and thanked us for doing it. I was back there a couple of months ago, decided to stay at the same hotel, thought I had a great experience. I'll go there again. Went in for breakfast in the morning. I was a little bit early. I said, do you mind if I just sit down? I'm happy to wait. And they were like, yeah. Sat down, looked across and I went, you're Mandy, aren't you? Because that was her name. And she went, yeah. And she went, you're Paul Bedford, aren't you? And I went, yeah. And she came over and we started talking. And I said, I said, I really enjoyed making that video about you. It made me feel good to be able to talk about someone that well. I said, and I really appreciated your daughter had messaged me saying, thank you for talking about my mum that way. We often feel she's overlooked. Anyway, Mandy says to me, he goes, yeah, I got a job from doing that. And I said, what do you mean you got a job? She goes, they invited me in. They called me into the office the next day after you'd posted it. They said, do you recognise this man? Yeah. Did you tour him around the club yesterday? Yeah. He posted a video about you. And she goes, and at that point, she goes, my heart sank because she thought, oh my God, what have I done wrong? And everybody in the office clapped her. And because the manager was there and the area manager, and they said to her, we would like to see if you would like the position of a duty manager within this organisation. And it just struck me. And I went into the council offices the next day and went, that's what you're competing with. You're competing with a cleaner who can describe the product within this business better than I've ever, better than I see most salespeople doing it.
What are takeaways for the independent sector from that story?
Train everybody how to describe everything. Everybody's a salesperson, even if they're not selling. She didn't really tailor the content to me. She just said, look, let me explain to you what we've got. She didn't do the next level up of and this is how it would fit with you. But she just knew her product. She was friendly. She had no expectations of me buying. So there was no sense of pressure. But she was just herself, but knew the product.
I think for me, the takeaway from that, as well as the sales element, always everyone should be trained to sell, but is you never know who's watching.
No.
Or if one of your members, they might be connected to someone of influence.
Yes.
So it's delivering that service around the clock.
Yeah. And I always do this thing of if I see it, it's the train thing. If you see it, say it. If I see good service, I say it. If I see poor service, I say it. And you're right. You don't know who's watching and who's feeding back and commenting. And, I'm in a fortunate position where people come up and go, oh, I watched your video on this, or I really liked your blog on that. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. They're always watching.
It's been very insightful, Paul. Can you just tell everyone where they can get hold of you?
So the business's website is retentionguru.com. Really, really simple. I'm also predominantly on things like LinkedIn as opposed to Instagram. We are on Instagram, but where we're more business to business, we're on LinkedIn. But we're on all social platforms. We post daily. We give ideas out every day. And we do a video once a week, which is me explaining some concept, but retentionguru.com.
I think for the people that this is their first interaction of meeting you, what do you do when you go and work with a business in this sector?
So if it was like an independent, obviously people, we have most of ours is inbound marketing. They're calling me and going, can you help? We will do a conversation to find out where they're currently at. Our preference is to extract data and do a data analysis. And then we will come and do a retention audit. So we'll come and visit the club, look at the data, present the data back, look at what's going on. And it's basically a strategy. We come up with a strategy for the club on that day. Here are the things you can work on. Then they can either get on with that on their own, they can get someone else to help them, or they can ask us to help them. If they're a bigger, more multi-site, then we'll probably do all of those sites and come up with a strategy for the whole business. And that's predominantly how we work. And we're also doing a few regional workshops where we have multiple businesses in one room.
And just give me a snapshot. What sort of results have you seen occur?
Well, an example of we did a one-dayer up in Oldham where we had 3 small group personal training studios come, and it was hosted at Platform Gyms, Mark and Steve's gym, and we did the one-day workshop, all about their customer journey, all about their experiences. Mark's reported that they've added 7 months to their membership of their people buying their small group training. So they've increased average length of membership by 7 months.
Which is, I'm sure, thousands in revenue.
It's thousands in revenue.
Tightening up everything.
Yeah.
The processes, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. And so we've done these, like, if a few people come together, we'll do it, because it's cost effective for them and for me. Gold's Gym, which is a very different animal, we added 4.75 million in 5 months in revenue. So we have an impact. It's just the scale of the business is the scale of the impact.
Cheers, Paul. Appreciate you coming down.
You're really welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Fitness Marketing Agency podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you can catch future episodes.